And then there was another student in the trombone studio who, when I was a sophomore, he was a grad student who played the entire first suite on bass trombone, which is like, that's a workout. But I kind of really quickly fell in love with this music. But talk to me about enough about my exposure to this. I mean, this was part of your diet. So talk to us. Let us know, kind of what this music means to you personally, what it means to the collective cellists in the world, how you guys use it, how you engage with it, how you come back to it, how you reimagine it. Anything you can give us on this, I think.
Yeah, sure. Sure. Well, first of all, it's good to be part of your final. But this is a nice final.
Everyone's got an A, so,
Yeah.
And they're going to get pizza too.
Oh, that's even better. So good. Well, let me introduce this piece to you by saying that this is kind of the gateway drug for cello players and cello lovers. This particular movement, the prelude. It's 2 minutes and change long, and it's not really melodic, meaning you can't really leave this room humming the thing unless you have really good range and your vocal skills are good. I really, and the harmonic progressions are quite simplistic. I really don't know what it is so much about this piece that makes it so beloved, other than the fact that a genius wrote it and he just knew what to do with the notes. There is, of course, the sound of the cello that people interface with, and I think they're attracted to it. And this Bach really understood how to write for string instruments very well. He understood the medium. He understood how to use the inherent qualities of the violin and the cello in particular, as he wrote solo suites for both of those instruments. There's 6 violin solo sonatas and partitas as well, which people would say are even greater works than the cello suites, just for the scope that they have. Certainly the violin was more of a soloist instrument back in that day than the cello was. But Bach was unique in that he wrote these solo suites for this instrument back at a time where the cello was primarily considered an accompaniment instrument. It was considered a continuum, played supporting the melodic lines, in the Bach cantatas and even other works. It was thought of as kind of with the harpsichord kind of over there. But Bach actually explored the possibilities at that time, the technical and expressive possibilities of the cello with these suites. And so we're very lucky to have these 6 suites, and it's not just the first suite, but there's 5 more, which people can even argue get even more incredible and more expanded. And the first suite is kind of the most simple and the shortest. But I think that's where the appeal lies as well. So when I was young, I was probably about 11 or 12, and my dad was a big audiophile, and he had a big CD collection, hundreds. My dad is an orchestral musician as well. He teaches he taught in public schools for many years. But he had this, and he had headphones and a nice setup, and I found out when I started to love the cello that he had this big collection of CDs. So I would get the headphones and go to the huge unit he had in our living room and pick out this cello CDs. And of course, I was immediately drawn to the Bach suites because it was just cello, nothing else. And it was, of course, this prelude that really grabbed me, of course, and when I was about 12, and hooked me in. And of course, I immediately wanted to play it, like most kids do at that age, and then they try to get the music, and it's kind of beyond their technique at that point. And so we really kind of crash against those rocks on the shore. So I have a lot of students that come to me and say, I really want to play this piece, and they've downloaded it off the internet, and they put it in front of me, and they say, I want to play that. And I just kind of go, okay, all right, we got to back way up, guys. And maybe in about a year or 2, you can play that, and then they get me.
That's about where we started too. I was like, I want to do this.
Yeah, that's where the kids started.
664 notes later.
They're like, oh man, yeah. And so you guys have been through that, I know, learning this piece. So that's kind of my background and my experience within the background. I've been everywhere. So I tell people I played the cello when I used to get a haircut, not by myself. When I used to get a nice haircut at the barber's. This lady was like, oh, you play the cello. Oh, there's this soundtrack I have in this movie, and it's got this incredible cello piece I just love. And I was like, I don't know what it is. And she said, I have 2 copies of it, so I'm going to bring you next time. And she gave me There was a movie that came out about 12 years ago or so called Master and Commander: Far Side of the World. It's about sailing ships in Napoleon Wars. Anyway, this piece was featured, and I knew what it was going to be. And sure enough, I still have the CD. It was a machine. She gave me that. Anyway, people love this of all ages and of all experiences. They don't know anything about classical music. They love it, and that's kind of universal.
How do you deal with, I think this might be good for everybody, because this is as much about your experience with this piece, but for these people who are going to go out and be band directors or studio musicians or performers on their instruments, you know, this is something that you've come back to, I assume. How many times have you played it? Many times.
Yeah.
How do you keep reinventing it, or what do you come back to that you love about it, that is absolute? Because, you know, for us in the band director world, it might be the whole suite. In an orchestral world, it might be this symphony, this Mozart thing. How do you come back to something that people have such an affinity for?
Yeah.
It is such a pillar of what you do, but keep it interesting as well. I mean, that has to be challenging.
It is, and you've heard, I mean, all the great cellists played and recorded in this piece, and so everybody has that in their ear. You know, if you go on YouTube or whatever, you're going to hear you can hear all these world-class cellists playing this piece, and so anyone else you hear, you're going to compare to that. And it's hard to get those interpretations out of your ear when you're trying to think about interpreting it yourself. Not that you should, because those are great interpretations. There's a few things. When one comes up, I've come back to this piece about 4 times in my career. So when I first played it when I was young, and then as an undergrad, I played it on one of my recitals. And then since I've been graduated from all my colleges, I've performed it 2 other times in a concert series, the whole suite. So I've had to kind of revisit it 4 times. The first time it was struggling with the technique. And maybe in the band you guys have been struggling with the technique of the difficulties of trying to play a string instrument piece on a non-string instrument. The second time, the technique was better when I was in college. And I still have that recording, by the way. And I listened to it, not for a few years, but it was really fast. I was like, man, I took that really fast. So then the second time I reimagined it, I thought more about tempo. Thought more about what tempo I wanted to take, and why was I playing it so fast? Why was I trying to feel it that way then? I really slowed the prelude down a lot. And the other movements. I think as I get older, when I revisit it, I want to see what's going on more inside the music, more this way as opposed to this way. So Bach moves 2 ways. He moves melodically this way, although not all of his music is melodic, the prelude being an example. It's not melodic. You can't really, there's parts of it where you can kind of sing, but it's more harmonic. It's more interesting this way, what he's doing with the chords, and I can show you that. I can show you that kind of with the first 4 measures. And you guys may have talked about these things, and that's fine, but I just want to kind of show you that with the first 4 measures. So when I would have played it the first time, I would have just thought about it in a linear way and trying to think, you know, that's the tempo I would have played in college. And so I would kind of think of it just really long lines and stuff like that. As I've kind of looked at it again, I started to look, and yes, the theory in Bach, you have to look at Bach through theory eyes. You have, right? You've analyzed the entire thing. Yeah, this is really great. So when I looked at it the second time, or the time after college, the third time really, I started to think about what the harmonies were. So if you were just to play these chords, that's a 1 chord or a G major chord. The second chord would be, and that's a 4 in C major, and then you get this. What's that? You have all 3 of those notes are dissonant with each other. You have, and then a tritone and a major 7th on top of each other. And then it goes to, back to the 1 chord. And so I started to think, well that's got to mean something. There's only 1 measure with dissonance in there, and it's that 3rd measure. So when I think about phrasing the opening, now I would play it a lot more obvious. You want to hear the chords. So I would go, so I want to phrase to the dissonance and let the resolution happen on the fourth measure. So you want to bring the tension, the harmonic tension, out in the third measure and let the fourth measure be a resolution. So instead of, where before I would probably phrase through the entire thing and just think, oh, here's a 4-bar pattern. And then the 5th bar breaks that pattern. But now I don't think of it that way. Now I think about it within each measure, where's the harmony going? And that would dictate my phrasing a lot more than the melodic line that I thought was. But it's not so much there.
Why don't you do this? Because I think we're somewhere between your undergrad performance of it, where it's just in time. And that's was one of our goals, to make time, and we use this to learn how to manipulate sounds that are better. But we're also trying to scratch the surface at this type of thing, but also some of the, just how you handle with pulse through the rubatos. Because, you know, in a perfect world, we're going to try to do this as much like you would do this. That's a risk for us, but I think it's one that, you know, even if we don't get there, we're learning from it, which I think is really important. So why don't you do this? If we could all just take a minute to play a couple notes, we'll take a pair of A's for everybody, and then we can maybe just, you can kind of talk to us about not only the shaping of this opening phrase, but also just how you handle with a little bit of the pulse, just the way it breathes or whatever. So if you just give us a second, go ahead and play a couple notes, and we'll take a pair of A's. Lucas, will you go ahead and help us out with that? Thank you. Good, good. So just go ahead and play some notes.
Okay, we will allow for the transposition to happen, so we won't play together.
So the first thing is this idea of leading into the dissonance, leading through the third measure, and that there's a relaxation in the cadence of returning in the fourth measure. So I think we can do that. Does that make sense to everybody? So one of our challenges in orchestrating this and trying to make it somewhat, building an orchestration that sounds like your instrument and that has things that ring when you leave one string for the others, and that strings and the wood still vibrates. And we have some of that. One of our biggest challenges is just, I think, in making this more like your third excursion on this, is figuring out how you conceptualize pulse and how you're, what you're thinking, how you're thinking, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4.
If I can say something about the rubato, so inherently, and of course Bach would never write this in. It's always kind of implied and it's kind of understood in the stylistic times that you would not just necessarily, especially for a prelude. Now the dance movements may be a little more strict, but the preludes in particular are all freely composed. There's no pre-existing structure to be imposed on. And so there is a little element of improvisation to be felt in the preludes. And to give if you look at the rhythms of the preludes, they're very mono-rhythmic. They're very, like you have 16th notes going the entire time. So it can kind of sound a little bit like an etude if it's just pounding it out with the metronome. Of course, that's got to be there at the beginning. I make all my students play their Bach with the metronome, but then we throw it away. Once they get their pulse established, then the metronome's got to go away because there's got to be, like Dr. Putnam said, there's got to be some rubatos. And so inherent in a string instrument is going to be the continued resonance of a note while other ones are playing. You won't necessarily be aware of it because it's not going to dominate. It's not going to dominate the other strings that are being played, but what it will do is create this sense of legato that the notes aren't separate. They're always kind of sounding one after the other. And so you can get that. You can hear, if you listen, there's still that G going, and there's even the D going still. So you hear, when I get to the B, I'm still hearing the supporting chords underneath that, even if it's just color. And if you play this in a very resonant space, you're really going to get that. It all sounds like it just sort of blends together in this beautiful chord, but at the same time, it's not happening in a vertical sense. It's happening over time, but you get the vertical kind of mixing in as well. So one of the things we do, we kind of pull our bass notes, our downbeats, if you will. We kind of give them a little extra bow. And I'm going to, just to get it speaking, I want this G to be the pedal throughout the whole passage, actually, 4 measures. This G pedal stays. And so, I'm going to really exaggerate it, but I'm going to, these notes here are almost like a Philip Glass piece. They're just kind of, I mean, they're just repeated notes, are like filler. But what we want to hear is this. Arpeggiated, or the 3 notes as the thing, and then those other 2 notes, don't give them too much. And so I really want to emphasize with my bow the first 3 notes with the emphasis on the bottom note the most. And then here is where we go a different direction. Harmony in particular. Especially you're going to come across notes like C sharps, there's a note where there's a D sharp, a G sharp, and that's going to really take the harmony in different directions.
So I don't, as I listen to you at least play this in a kind of break it down for us, it almost sounds like you're thinking almost twice as long for the bottom pedal note, and then a little, rubato that propels us into, and then a more of a lift.
Yeah, and I would say to do it on the beginning, but make sure you don't do it. We don't need to do it too much. It's already been done, so it's going to repeat twice per measure.
So on 2E and then 4E.
The harmony changes. The harmony changes.
Let's just see what happens. Let's just see. So we're almost thinking like doubling the length and then moving through it. This is going to be, it could be catastrophic. It could be, we'll just see what happens.
We'll see what happens.
We'll just see
if
what
they
happens.
can
But
do it.
I mean, we have all heard this and we can start to feel this way. I think this is possible. It's going to require work and experimentation, but this is what could also make this one of the most special, unique things that heck anyone, let alone EKU, could do. So, could you just give us almost a breath and show us how you do it one more time, and then we're going to try?
Yep. So I will get set. So I want to just make sure that everything is still in my body and in my mind, and get my placement set. I think I want to emphasize the bass note and the melodic line.
Sounds nice that way too. I bet some kind of
On the loop, there's
On the
actually the loop versions.
Let's try it, shall we? Let's see what happens. So we're going to try to elongate almost 2/16 notes, and then a little bit movement forward. I think if you just use your ears and open up your kind of awareness, it might actually work not bad the first time. Ready? Shall we?
So if I can give a suggestion, I would say, so low brass, on the second time you do that animation, make it less than the first. Because right now I'm hearing, it always sounds the same. If you can be heavy on the first beat, on the third beat, be a little bit less. Remember, you want to emphasize when the harmonies change, not on every low note.
I think we could probably, and I know the scariest part is probably playing E and up, or 2,
Yes.
3, 4, knowing what that. So if you can really think like right now, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Almost make it like put an extra 16th note in there. Let's just see. That's a little sterile, and maybe we can find a more organic. But that initial harmony setup.
Yeah, you want to think,
I was impressed.
so I have a feeling we're still trying to, you guys are entering a little timid, it almost seems a little late sometimes on, and it almost seems like dun 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 dun. And can you make it a little more legato, put a little more love to it.
2, 1, 2, 3. 2, 1, 2, 3. Let's just try it. It's a neat experiment. Ready?
This is much better now. I don't just feel heavy brass all the time, heavy brass all the time.
We try it again. And we're working, we're spinning one plate, this just new feeling with the rubato. Can you try to make the other plate, which was the intensify into the 4 chord, and then the dissonance in the third, that kind of thing? Can you, yeah, try to get a little bit more, and then just keep listening to us. What do you know, if it's like we need a little bit more of this color and that color, that kind of thing? Let's try it again. Good. Yeah, just go for it. This is like we're in the chemistry lab right now. There may be an explosion, but that's okay. That's how you learn, right? When you lose a hand, you learn. Don't do that. Ready? Here we go. Thank you. Ready? Here we go. Well, then why stand in front of all of us?
So low brass. So I want to see if we can make so instead of just we shape it like it would go to the next note. You have to think that your note is going to be the one that goes. So it doesn't just go. It doesn't have an end. It's got to go into. And right now I hear your notes kind of just being. I wonder if we can make it taper it a little bit more so it doesn't just have, it doesn't seem just a clock.
Do you hear the A, second note in there?
I don't really, I hear a lot of small, I don't hear much else.
Let's try again. Let's try again. Good. Ready?
Really make that, if I could more big, my employee in this, I feel like.
See, that time we lost a little bit of our elongation of time on the down beat. Let's see if we can get that. I still think you can do more into the second and third measure. Like, let's see if we, even if you feel like you're playing outside the ensemble, that's fine. See if you can lift your neighbors to be a little bit more musical over the first 4 bars, so that the 4th bar is really a relaxation. And then the 5th bar, when it starts going different, we can talk about that. It's like, good, let's just try it again. Thank you, this is excellent. Ready? So, elongate, ba-dee-da-dee-da, elongate, ba-dee-da-dee-da, and then more, etc. Ready? So, are we getting there? Good. We just keep listening around. Let's just do another time. I think it's going to be, it's really easy for this part to stick out.
Yeah.
Let's not worry about it too much because we'll have some people in front of you, but see if you can just be a little bit more sensitive on a 4 or whatever. A 1, that kind of thing. Let's try it again. Let's try it again. See if let's see if we can be even more adventuresome with the rubato. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Let's see if we can make it feel a little bit more, even if that's a little sterile, oblong, 16 kind of thing. Ready? Good. And then just whatever you can, this is invaluable to us. Here we go. Ready?
That one. And I hear it over here as the horns and you guys. And what it sounds a little too segmented. I would love it if it led more into. So if I were to play it here, it's got to lead into the downbeat or into that low note. And I kind of just hear it. I hear it very segmented. It sounds to my ear like it's just happening and then it stops without any awareness of where it's going to. And
So more of the
yeah, so maybe you can ease into the downbeat.
Same thing, so a little bit more of the G to the A, that kind of tenuto, those 2 tenutos. Let's try it again. Good.
It's kind of tricky to cross.
Yeah, it's
Yeah. So are you guys, are they sitting, no, they're not sitting very next
that's,
to each other.
no, but if you'd like,
So it's going to be something you can be aware of, that you got to be aware that you're playing with the horns there.
and that sex.
And the saxophones, yeah, so this has got to be happening. I'm kind of hearing it's almost two separate articulations.
Good.
Kind
Good.
of sounds
We're good at listening. So hopefully we can fix this quickly. Let's try it again. Good. Lucas, could you give us the breath? From Lucas?
Good, so yeah, I like it. You were instinctively kind of holding that last note until you heard this. And I like that because the cello, that's what it would do. It wouldn't be. You know, we wouldn't have that break. It would lead right into it. We would get that connection. So I think that's really what I wanted to hear more of is the connection of that 16 note to the low brass down.
Can we just try that again? Let's go on. Let's go on. So A, we call it A. It's the kind of that
Where it departs.
where it departs
Yeah,
and it goes into a little bit more of that scalar thing. And so for us, we've been thinking that, that this is a little bit more horizontal because it's not the arpeggiations or just things spin out
Yep.
almost a little bit more counterpoint wise. But let's just do our best to keep that going, and let's continue to take it off of Lucas. Lucas and Kitten, we just both of you breathe together, and we can kind of focus our eyes in here. See if we can make more music. I still think there's room to do, everybody can do more development in those first 3 measures, and then we let the 4th relax. And then kind of new music. To the arpeggiation,
Yes.
then it's like in conflict with itself.
Yes, he's trying to, it's foreshadowing the second half after the fermata. It's totally different music.
Sure.
It's much more scalar, right? These kind of runs in the scale pattern. Maybe he's foreshadowing that, or maybe he's just trying to give us some contrast to the arpeggiation. But I think it's okay to just kind of run through it. But here's something I want to see if you can try. On the cello, so we would try to bring out this C sharp, and for you guys it would be a B.
B.
So it would be this one. And it would be accented off because of the string change. It's a different color on the G string. So you would have and this is that kind of minimalistic thing.
And give us, this is, I think, really, this is what really, you talked about this when you and I sat down.
Yes.
That sound, play us the open G.
So you have,
so that like really rings versus it's dull, but it still has.
it's a warm, but it's not
Yeah.
resonant. It's
Yeah.
not like that overtone. So
So for us, we're talking about the second measure of A, trying to create that thing happening.
yeah, it's that. So this is the first time. This is like the arpeggiation, but it's all made into a very tight chord.
More compact.
Yes. Yeah, it's like a closed
Open.
chord instead of an open chord. So it's very interesting. It comes back to this, which is a diminished chord, right? You have the, and then what he goes to from that is now you're going to come to the parallel or the relative minor, and when you and it was going to be hard, but I would like.
That's in 4th of A.
Total color change.
4th of A.
To the minor. So you're kind of kicking along. Little rubato. But if you can get down to a nice different color for when the minor comes in, in this case it would be D minor.
Yeah, this is great. So, gang, 4th of A, would you just maybe write a similar rubato to what we're trying to achieve in the first 4 measures? When it goes back to...
And a nice little D there.
So Forianda beats Forianda in 3 of A. Beats Forianda can set us up with what we're hearing is 4 E and O.
Yes,
E
it's
and
lovely.
O, 2 E and O.
Because it brings that opening
E and O.
gesture right back.
So does that make sense? Does that make sense? Would you indulge us and would you play from the beginning just up to I'll give you when it stops, just so we can hear how the cello changes and what we're trying to achieve here. Hold rubato in the first half section. Relax. Set up new. Lean forward. 4 E and a 1 E and a 2 can also help us set that up. Does that make sense? Can we just listen to that one more time? This is really good. This is excellent. And would you just go through your part with, like, kind of do this all, and we just give us a nice breath so we can airplay with you? Here's your bottle on 4. Okay, would you just do that first more time? I think that's really good. You know, it's like jazz. We just kind of have to hear it and move along with it. Yeah, this is really great. Same thing. Same thing. Yeah, let's try it. Let's try it. Let's try it. Show off. Show off.
That's where I'm gonna go. That's going to be very hard to do. You didn't have the string crossings. Right. Cool, guys. Good job. You guys are awesome.
Just have another go and then give us some feedback on it.
That was pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Me or them?
Let's have them.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Just since
Everybody
that was
played
good.
it.
That was good, guys. You guys picked up on a lot of those rubatos together. That's hard to do as a group.
And this is not a great environment for listening for that, so just see if you can open up and attune and continue to, you know, the last ingredient is the one that we started off with, right? Making every note sound great, back when we were trying to learn all 664 of them. So let's see if we can just add that plate to the mix. Good, 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 let's try it again. Hold your thoughts for 2 seconds. I'm just going to ask you, when you approach those rubatos, is it subito or is it just graduated over those 4 notes? Because I hear 2 different interpretations in here. Some people are 1 E and a, 2 E and a, 3 E and a, 4 E and some are 4 E and a, 1.
It's got to be
E and a.
gradual. It's going to be like a ball rolling to a stop, but not stopping. Da-dee-da-da-da. Okay, it's like it's coming up a little hill and then it just keeps going. You can't come to a stop and it can't happen.
So do you hear the difference?
Right.
So it's not 1 E and a, 2 E and a, 4 E and a, 1.
Yeah.
So it just it's almost like a bell curve, you know, the last one's gonna be the longest, as opposed to something, few of you are hitting the brakes right away. Let me just try it one more time, one more time, one more time. Really, this is really tough because you don't play the downbeat, so just,
Yeah.
ready? I'll help, just a little bit. But put your eyes right there, I'm just gonna help you a little bit.
Almost had the low E, or the low D.
So I thought that was significantly better. It's just maybe, and I know there's a lot of anticipation to get things going across that bar line, but it just feels like if we wait just, you know,
Yep.
1% more.
Just a little more. You have the low notes, you get those pedal notes, remember, you're kind of the splash.
Talk to us, do you know right where we stopped?
Mhm.
Could you put, like this part for us, we've had to orchestrate a little, because this is where it starts going,
Yes.
it's kind of repeating on one note. I
Yes.
kind of call it staccato part, if you
Yeah.
will. Would you just play a little bit and kind of tell us what you're thinking about how the same note versus the melody that happens with the same note?
Where it starts on this,
Right where we stopped. I guess we call it, yeah, it's right before that. So we just, this doesn't help you, does it? That's why the flutes do this, come on. Yep, right there. I think so.
So if we start there.
Why don't you start and I'll tell you. Minor. Right here.
So this part harmonically is
Yep.
getting really interesting because now we have these, now it's the sharp of the tonic. We have a G, it'll be F sharp for you. So all of a sudden he's harmonically going somewhere really different. And so it's that one note. We have, so I feel like you need to hear this.
So that's the repeated note.
Because that's the leading tone to the new key. So you're going to hear which is A minor for me, which would be G minor.
So if that sort of pedal is important, what do you do with the other notes though in terms
So,
of shape?
yeah, so when we come up on a single voice instrument like the cello, when we have polyphony, it's very, you have to do it almost, and what you would have to do, well, you could do it differently because you can sustain, but we have to almost do aural tricks. We have to think, we have to hold the note, and that's why we do these rubatos to make that note stick out in the ear a little bit more. So we would, we might add a little vibrato to the note, which we don't usually do much of in Bach, but we would do, and come back to it and try to play that G sharp the same way both times. So I would try to use the same color for the G sharp, and the other notes use a different color.
Can we do, so let's just see if we can experiment with that. What would the color be on the G?
Well,
sharp?
I like to make it darker. I like to think of the other, so I would lean into the note a little bit more and make it.
So if you have the pedal point, just a little bit more lean at the front, and then maybe just so that
That's what I
there's
would,
a little shift.
We lean on it, we make it a little bit darker tone.
We tried it at B, and then just give us kind of, let's just play a little bit at B. Let's play a little bit at B, and then just give us your thoughts on this. B, ready? So for the trumpets, euphoniums, tenor saxophone, English horn, bass clarinet, lum, bum, 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 which they don't have all the
Do
other.
the trumpets have that?
The trumpets, yes. Oh no, you're dead on it. They're the only voice that has everything. The other people that I called off have just the changing notes.
Oh, they have 8.
Yeah, they just have the 1 and 2 and 3 and 4
They can
and
help
1.
shape that, yeah.
So does that make sense? So the inherent shaping euphoniums. Let's try it all again at B. Euphoniums, I guess I would probably say the same thing happens at B3 for you when you join in the full thing. Let's try B. B. I don't. Do you feel that like is this okay? It's a little bit more relaxed when we've been doing it, but I think it's great. Would you continue to just sing through and try to make better resonant sounds? Try it. B. Bartok. Good. Or Bach, I should say. B is in Bach. No, Bartok. Let's see. B. Ready? Maybe just because this is tough, just a little less of the rubato. Just because this is really, it's very segmented.
Yeah.
That's good. Let's just try it again. That already was better though. I thought that was a more.
It didn't sound so choppy.
So thinner euphonium, you can help out with that as well. Again, same thing. Ready? Still 4E and go E again.
Yeah, it's just a little bit. I don't think you want to sing rubato in every cadence because then it gets a little bit predictable. It gets a little bit, okay, this is rehearsed or whatever. It's got to feel again the element of improv.
Could we, hey, ladies and gentlemen, could we then let's do this. Let's not slow down coming into C and keep things moving, only so we can make D. And D is the setup into the fermata.
Is D the...
Yeah, that's D. So that's a little. Can we go to the top to D and then explore into the fermata? This is really great. Let's do everybody. Would you play for us up to the fermata? And we're just going to airplay along with you one more time. This is really great. So please airplay along. You get a nice sound here. Let's try it. Let's try it. Let's try it. Good. Good. We'll be a trio. I'll just be nice and small. Ready? So just eyes down here.
From the beginning or?
Yeah, very beginning. Very beginning. Good. notes. I noticed you do something really interesting before D. One before D, which is where we have a little arpeggiation, then it spins in the big downward scale, and then you're at D, where we get back to, I guess, R, B naturals, or C sharps. You really slow down on beat 2.
Yes.
1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4. Yeah.
The reason why I like to do that is because that's where finally we return to a tonic feel after all that travel. You know, we travel around. He's I like to give my audience like this is okay. Now we're back to here's your original key after all the modulations we just went through. But this is the last time you're going to hear it for a while.
So, and what does 2 before D look like in your music? What does 2 before D look like in your music? The very beginning, right?
Yes.
It should be orchestrated almost. I think I just copied and pasted most of it. So it's a cheap way to do it. So you play us kind of the return to G major, us F, and could you listen to how not only the return but really the measure before D is pulled back and then almost avalanches back in?
Yeah, kind of that.
Yeah.
Roller.
Yeah, will you play that?
So yeah, we're gonna. Let's do that again. Would you just give us kind of a nice breath again at the beginning? Would you just play along and feel the 16th notes? I'm going to how many before?
2 before D. Two exact same spot. Yeah, when you return to the opening.
Yeah. So it's.
Really long on the fermata. Would you just do that again? I think that's really great. Listen to that. I think 1 before D is a really big chance for us to make a really unique 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3.
And if you look at the patterns, that's
Yeah.
that's where he's foreshadowing what happens after the fermata. All these.
The scale, the
Yeah,
spinning
because
scales.
and it goes way to the bottom of the range of the cello, and so it kind of is all the way down. So I kind of like to offset that event, that musical event there, by the rubato.
Let's do it again. Let's do it again. Same spot, airplane here. Nice breath along just.
And that being our C string, I wrote hammer out those open Cs. Because it's the dominant 7, right? But I love to just like to do that.
You guys can have a little bit more.
You guys got B flats, so for you that's
It's a good one for us too.
it's a good one for you. Yeah,
Can we try that? Would you help us just start off?
yeah.
Let's start there, 2 before D.
We just kind of think, get back into that tempo.
Yeah, just help us and we'll go together. Then you don't have to play
Yeah,
obviously.
that's good.
Before we do that again, play us the last 3 notes. Bum bum bum. Places.
Really make a-
Just play us the bum bum bum. Those changes, there needs to be more. There's a lot more.
Yeah, this is the first time in the piece that it stops.
Yeah.
Nothing stops. It's all the same rhythm from the beginning until that point.
So less passive about our energy there. Let's just try it again. Let's try it
Yeah, I
again.
would drive to the top. So
Yep.
that's the
So those two notes can be a little bit firmer, I think, from us.
And the leading tone, I would bring out the tension in the leading tone there. Now again, in the Baroque style, you bring out the tense notes, notes that have tension built into them, and certainly the leading tone is one of those notes.
Maybe the last thing I would say to everybody, like that graduate, that relaxation, I think when I hear it from the cello, it's the most on the downbeat 1-4-B. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, D. That's maybe going to be our biggest challenge. Let's try it again. Good. You're doing a nice job. This is cool. Yeah, it is tricky. Let's try it again. 2B4D. D is so unsettling, and then if you don't move forward a little bit at D, then it's tough to pull back. So gang, could we let's think a little bit more inside the box at D, so that the 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3 can be even more special. But that was closer. Let's try that again, please. 2B4D, 2B4D. I'll help you guys out this time. You're doing great. Thank you. 2B4D, and then any comments, obviously. 2B4D.